Have you ever had a conversation with somebody who doesn't share your experiences or your assumptions? Many of us have found that sort of situation when the topic of porn comes up, or especially porn recovery. It's hard to talk to those people outside of the bubble of porn recovery. Maybe they don't share your faith background. Maybe they don't share your understanding around the effects it has or potentially has on someone's life. Maybe they just don't get it. And it's hard. It's hard to bridge that gap in a conversation if the topic ever comes up. Recently, I was given a challenge to do exactly that. My kid brother has a personal trainer who specializes in men's fitness around all topics like working out, nutrition, health. He has a couple gyms, and he has a podcast called North Star Podcast. His name is Jeremy Longpre. And as my kid brother was working out with them, they would have these broad conversations about life. And my brother said, "Hey, you have to have a conversation with my older brother, Vern, because you guys are generally talking and working in the same field, but you're obviously dealing with different topics. It would be great to get you together." And so he gave me his number, and I ended up calling him, and we had a great conversation. And out of that phone conversation, we decided to do a podcast together. And I would like to share it with you. It's just an example of how to have a conversation with somebody who's maybe not in your bubble. And so I think you'll enjoy this conversation. Welcome aboard.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, let me just say before we get to my conversation with Jeremy and the North Star podcast, if you haven't connected with some of the free resources, I encourage you to sign up to the Circle platform. It's the link that you can sign up to all sorts of great resources like documents and worksheets to help you, specifically help you towards moving away from porn. There's also information there regarding the Finding Traction course, the 52-week video course, your first full year of porn recovery, and also information about some of those groups. So the best way to get a hold of me, again, is bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. So here's my conversation with Jeremy Longpre of the North Star podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 39 of the North Star podcast. Today, we have a special guest today. His name is Vern Tomke, and I'm actually very, very excited about this podcast because this one is going to be very unique in the way of certain topics that we're going to talk to, and he is also a brother of one of my clients that I'm very close with. So I'm very, very looking forward to this one because the individual that is his brother is very special to me too. So Vern, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this. I just want to kind of let you go off and kind of who you are, a little bit of an introduction, and we'll go from there. So
hey, Jeremy, thank you. And thanks, guys. It's good to be on the podcast. I wear lots of hats. I mean, I don't have a hat on today, but I wear lots of hats in my life. I have been involved in a high school teacher. I have been a pastor. I have been a life coach. In fact, that's what I'm doing mostly right now. I basically transitioned into life coaching, and I work with guys all over the world from Australia, South America, Europe, England, North America. And guys reach out to me because of my podcast, which is called Finding Traction. And guys are realizing I have a problematic use of porn in my life. And it's resulting in all sorts of negative things in my life. And I'm in trouble. And they listen to me on the podcast and they email me and say, hey, I need help. And so I work with guys individually. I work with guys in groups. And I help them walk away from what I just call problematic use of porn in their lives to a life which is much healthier, stronger relationships, and moving not just away from something, but towards the life and relationships that they want. Me and my wife also coach marriages for probably 15 years. My brother John and his wife, they also came there. And so we've taken hundreds of couples through John Gottman marriage material.
Okay, I've heard of this. Yeah.
And if you're familiar with any marriage therapist, you've probably heard of John Gottman. So all of that comes together in helping men, because men often find the wheels coming off their proverbial tires of their life. They're driving along and all of a sudden they see a wheel going past them, which is their wheel, and they go, hey, I'm in trouble. And we work with them around their kind of addictive lifestyle, but then also into their relationships. So that's a little bit of what I do. It's endlessly fascinating. I work with guys from all different ages, from really their 20s to their 70s. I work with guys from all faith backgrounds. When I say all faith backgrounds, I like to joke, in the Christian genre, I've had Orthodox, Catholic, JW, Mormon, Evangelical. Outside that, I've had agnostics, Stoics. I had a guy that was an Aztec, which I'm still quite trying to figure out what that is. But it's fascinating working with guys within their faith understanding or their lack of faith understanding and help them move forward towards a better life. So it's a great gig, and I have a great time doing it.
That's really cool. My underlying first question, and I was super curious on this, and I'm looking forward to hearing the answer, is how did you even get into this? How did this this one thing start? I'd love to. That's something that has always interested me.
Well, it's funny. When I was at university, I had a roommate with a guy that was going into psychology. And I was in business at the time, and I'm going, dude, I know why you're in psychology, because you got all sorts of problems. So you're trying to figure out your own problems. It was a bit of a business, kind of thing. I'm going, well, but porn was a big part of my life. It became a way of life it got embedded from the time I was an early teenager. And as a result, when my parents went through a divorce, the unique role I had in my family, feeling left out, forgotten, I came to depend on it. And, it is what it is. I'm actually not an anti-porn crusader. I'm not a big moralist. For me, it became problematic. And as I moved through my life and then I entered into relationship with my now wife, it was like a mirror and a feedback loop that began to cause me problems, began to cause problems in my marriage. And then, it didn't quite work with the pastor gig because I always felt like I was presenting myself as one person and doing something else. So that created some value incongruence. I just ran into a number of dead ends and began to go, okay, I have a problem, and I began to reach out through 12-step and other things to find help. So the best kind of help, I think, is from guys who have experienced help and hope themselves. It's my story, and then I can then turn around and go, you know what? This is not overwhelming. It feels bad, but there is a way through this. This is my story. And using some of the principles I've learned, we can walk through this together and find that better life, whatever that looks like on the other side. And there's all sorts of examples of people looking for that better life.
I find it interesting because I even find myself someone being in their 20s. I find it more common that people are talking about this too.
Absolutely.
Even if I look even when I was in high school, let's say.
Yep.
So I noticed even from that change how much of it has become more aware and
Yep.
And again, for some people, like you said, problematic.
Sure.
You know,
And I'm using that because I want to get away from, well, that's, Bible verses and sin and all of that. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about self-identified awareness that people are going, this is not serving me any longer.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that with the individuals you work with, have they mostly gone to a point where it's problematic to the point where other things around them they're not able to do their day-to-day, or is there some form of balance that they
Right.
have?
It is up to the individual. Some guys, let's just talk about the 20s, kind of moving through 20s and hitting that magic 30. I've had guys, single guys, who go, you know what? I have spent my freaking 20s with my pants around my ankles, playing video games and watching porn, and I've got no real relationships with real women. I view every woman as a porn object. I rank them, and the pornographic mindset. I don't like who I am at 30. I don't like who I am in terms of my lack of relationship with, let's say, the opposite sex. I don't like who I am with the isolation in my life. That's an awareness that I'm finding more guys are starting to express in terms. I mean, that's why guys like Jordan Peterson, whether you love him or hate him, I think he's pressing into that angst that 20-somethings are feeling. Other guys, where let's say they come into a real, that relationship that's going to move towards marriage, or they get married. Other guys find now for the first time they have a feedback loop in their lives. It's called their partner. Yeah. And their partner's going, you know what? I'm just not sure that I want to be, your porn star. I'm not sure that I like the fact that you have this discontentment with me. I feel like you're using me. I feel like you're checking out other women, or I've lost trust. That is this leading to online chats with women, which is pretty common. Every porn site is always trying to monetize. That whole trust factor gets challenged often, and it's not just religious couples. It's often common, not every couple, but some relationships are going, I feel like I'm losing you to this other world. We've been watching the series Black Mirror, and it's all about technology. Some of them are a little bit, out there, but it's a great example of, I feel like I'm losing you, or you're not really here, or you're always agitated and frustrated. What's going on? And now guys who've lived in their single life with these embedded things, now they're in a feedback loop, and now they're looking in the mirror, they're going, oh my goodness, I've got 5-10 years of embedded habits, and now I'm trying to build a relationship, and I'm running into these walls, relational walls. So those are just a couple examples of guys that get a hold of me at younger ages. Older guys are going, man, I feel like I missed my kids growing up because I wasn't present for them. I was off in my world. That's sad. I get older guys going, you going, older guys? Yeah, I get guys moving into retirement, and they're going, you know what? I feel like I've lost purpose in my life, and now I reach back into my porn world, and it's causing me problems. Guys in their 60s. You're going, really? If you're 20 or 30, that's awful depressing to hear. Yeah. But the problematic thing is different. I joke, some guys lose the keys to their house. Some guys lose the keys to their bedroom. Some guys just lose the keys to their mental health. Yeah. So, yeah.
I find it pretty interesting that each phase and kind of where you're at is different too. I do think it would be interesting, though, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of kind of tips you would have for individuals that are listening to this and they feel like they're in that, loop that you say. Is there anything that you would advise them to kind of start working on? And I know it's very general because you don't have the individual, but I think just some tips would be really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some common areas. And, as somebody who coaches guys yourself, I think some of these are going to resonate as just normal helping principles. The first one is helping people begin to build connections. If there ever was an example, I think there's a famous psychologist who did a study with rats and all that, the rat park, I think it was out of Vancouver where the study was done. And he came up with this statement: the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. And it's connection that begins to pull you out of that world. And if there ever was an isolating sort of activity, usually most guys, the old days of going down to Point Roberts, that kind of dates me back to my UBC days, to go down and watch porn together with a bunch of guys. Those days are kind of gone. Having, inviting a whole bunch of friends over to watch porn is usually not. It's a disconnecting, isolating experience. So the first thing is starting to work with guys around building healthy connections. Okay, what do you want? Do you want to build a relationship with a real woman, not a silicon one or a virtual one? What does that look like? How do we start to build real healthy connections with real women? How do you begin to gain confidence with the opposite sex, for example? So connection. How do you begin to work? We bring guys into groups where they just talk about, finding traction, just finding out how do I navigate this challenge around my sexuality. So connection is the first one. The second one is coaching. Can I find somebody who's been through it?
Understands it.
It's like why AA is so helpful is I think it would fall apart without a sponsor, without the sponsoring, ideas. And, you coach guys with physical fitness. A lot of guys have a gym at home, and why does it go nowhere? But I spent all this money on a gym at home. Well, you know what? There's the connection of going to a gym and being around other guys that are working out. And then also maybe having a coach that says, what are your goals and how do we get there? So coaching, I have heard and been in groups where it's just led by, you're just pooling your ignorance. Nobody's getting better. Nobody's actually getting success over some of these habits. And they just sit around and go, isn't life difficult? Doesn't this suck? We're never going to change. Those groups, they're not helpful. But to have somebody that says, you know what? There's hope and health on the other side. So first one's connection. Second one is coaching. Third one is going, what are the unmet needs that you are reaching to this whole porn lifestyle for? What are those unmet needs? A great quote that I think I attribute it to Matt Dobschutz, who does a great podcast called Porn Free Radio. He has this quote, and it is this: porn is not your main problem. It's just your favorite solution. So what are you trying to solve? What needs are you trying to meet? Let's talk about those. Let's begin to work on those. Yeah, there's some practical things around impulse, and two of my favorite books, if you're into, number one is Atomic Habits.
I've read that one. Atomic
Habits and Willpower is Not Enough. Benjamin Hardy. Those are the two classic just habit building books that you got to read. But then you start going, okay, I begin to, remove instant access to my impulses, which always get me in trouble. Just common sense things. Once we've got some common sense things around my technology, now how do I begin to look at some of those unmet needs? And that goes into an area, and again, I know you're really strong on this. How do we help guys with self-care? What does self-care look like? We work guys through, how do you take care of your body physically? If we're talking young people, oh my goodness, people are so sick of me when I work with guys under 35. Vern is going on and on and on and on about, guess what? Sleep.
Huge.
What time are you going to bed?
Yeah.
Well, I was up and I was playing my video game till 2 a.m, or I was watching porn till 2 a.m. Nothing good happens after midnight. They say that to every NFL player. Nothing, How much sleep are you getting? How are you eating? Yeah. So we walk them through self-care in the physical realm. Then we talk about self-care in a spiritual realm. That can go many ways. It's just helping people connect with their deepest values. Mm-hmm. That's what we call spiritual. Relational. How do you build good, healthy relationships with your spouse or your fiance or your family? And then finally, we just call it passion. What are you doing? What are you building that you look forward to? Mm-hmm. That gives you an option, an added option to put joy in your life. Because so many guys, after they've been in porn and embedded porn use for so long, it's like all the passion gets squeezed out of their life, and all they want is that dopamine rush of that 10 or 12 out of 10 thing. That's the only thing that gives them joy or pleasure. Fancy word, anhedonia. Have you ever heard that word?
No.
It's the inability to experience joy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we work on helping people re-establish and reconnect with sources of joy. So it's holistic. Yeah. It's not just stop doing this or, yeah.
It's interesting because what really stood out to me on those comments too was also finding a sense of purpose.
Yes.
Right? I think once you have purpose, a lot of those, not all the time, obviously those other things start to filter out, but if you have something that you're working towards or you have something that you're looking forward to do, a lot of those times and those distractions are filled up now with your purpose.
Yeah.
And going on sleep, in the fitness industry, we make a joke. I know we chatted about this on the phone too, but I said sleep is probably one of the most underrated fat loss hacks. Yep. Like if I'm not even talking nutrition, working out, whatever, right? It's one of those things. So, it's really interesting to hear because I think a lot of these probably you hear a lot of similar situations that people are going through. And I guess for me, my understanding with this all and going off of being someone who is in their 20s, mm-hmm. how much do you think that porn can really affect someone later on in life if they don't figure out their stuff now?
Well, that's the challenge, right, Jeremy? Because the challenge is we always have this inbuilt ability to minimize or go, you know what? This is just a phase in my life.
Yeah.
What I do now is not going to affect what I am later. I mean, you see it with eating, you see it with, what I do now is going to change. One of the classic lines, and I was prey to this, I've never met a guy that wasn't prey to this. Every single guy that I've ever met that then got into a relationship and married and then ran into all sorts of problems, they make this point. I am only going to have this problem until I get married. Mm. And then they realize that marriage didn't solve my porn problem. And it has nothing, marriage, sex and porn is nothing to do with each other. In porn, you're chasing a drug. Mm. In real life sex, in fact, many of my guys express disappointment in sex when they get married. Mm. Because they thought that sex and marriage was going to take care of all of these needs. And then they find they get married and they're going, okay, that's it? Mm-hmm. Because they're not in control. They're having to deal with this problematic partner with their own needs and all the challenges there. But they're not able to pursue it like a drug that they did when they were in their 20s. They're pursuing a drug, and then they get married and they're going, well, it's, if you try to pursue sex like a drug with your wife, that's going to turn sideways real quick. And so I say to guys, this is the opportunity for you to begin to develop some skills, develop some self-care, develop some distance. So when you get married, when you get into a healthy relationship, then you are actually prepared for real life in terms of that. And so it's not true, although I get the logic. Well, it's kind of to do with sex. So once I get married and can have sex all the time, which is not really true, but then I'm going to be good. This is going to just disappear. And rarely is that the case when somebody has an embedded dependence on porn. Porn is their way of life. See, for me, it was the way I dealt with pain. It was the way I dealt with strong emotions. It's the way I rewarded myself. It got embedded in my life early. And like a lot of things that get embedded in your life early, they get really deep inside of you. Here's a funny example. I'm wearing a Dallas Cowboys shirt, if you didn't notice that. People say, why are you a Cowboys fan? You live in Canada. Okay, at 11 years of age, Jeremy, two things happened to me. Number one, I read a magazine called Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys. And 11 years, the cement was wet in my life, and I became a Cowboys fan. You say, yeah. No. I became a Cowboys fan. I have been to the old Cowboys Stadium. I have been to the new Cowboys Stadium. I have been there on American Thanksgiving. Jeremy, I have been to the Dallas Cowboy training camp. I am a true believer. That's a fan.
That's a fan, man. That is a fan.
And it all started at 11 years of age. And the other thing that happened at 11 years of age, I was exposed to pornography. And that also began an embedded thing that took many years of coaching and help and support where I could find a tipping point where it wasn't controlling me anymore. So 11 years.
Do you mind sharing that clicking moment where you had to make that change with porn and that relationship? Was there something that...
That's a great question. I think the challenge with porn is it's always there ready to return to your life. So when I first got married, it was probably not a problem for the first couple of years. And then kids started coming along. And then when kids started coming along and pregnancy and all the challenges then it reemerged as a controlling issue. I know this is a little bit ahead of your journey. I hope you don't. I had a pretty massive midlife crisis at 40, from 38 to 43, where I lost purpose. I was depressed. I felt like nothing I did mattered. Then it emerged big time in my life again as a solution. It was always there waiting. I just talked to a guy this morning who lost his marriage because of cocaine and one night stands. He said, I was doing well. I did well for 6 years, and then it was there. I hit some rough times. It was there. So it's one of those things, once something gets embedded, even if and I'm not trying to be depressing here, you always go, this is a propensity. This is a susceptibility. It's like guys that have struggled with alcohol and they're clean from alcohol. In fact, alcohol is a great example here. They go, you know what? I always have to be aware because I know that first drink always is going to, I can't do that first drink. It's just something in my DNA and my bones and my history. For me, that's problematic. And that is not conducive, any drinking, for a healthy life. And other guys go, dude, we're just going to the bar to have a beer. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, it's different person to person and
absolutely
how they've grown up with it, or how they, like you said, how it's impacted their life. I'm really intrigued now to hear, you had mentioned your groups, but also to how that looks like when you have a conversation with a individual that's either one-on-one or in a group setting. Are you more focused on their specifics on what they're trying to inherently fix, or is it more just like support and having someone there to talk to?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I try to come at it from a holistic standpoint. First of all, the reason guys reach out to me is because they tried for years to change on their own. I mean, step one of any one of you 12-steppers out there, PU, powerless and unmanageable. I recognized my life was powerless, and I was powerless and my life had become unmanageable. In other words, they They have been trying for years to affect change in just their own, to quote the old Seinfeld episode, master of their domain, right? They're not the master of their domain. And that's one of the areas where they realize this is problematic. I don't like to feel like I don't have control over my life, that I tell myself 20 times I don't want to end up doing this, and yet I always end up spending all weekend doing this, or going to the bar and picking somebody up, or whatever that, or going to massage parlor, or whatever that problematic thing is for their lives. So we start and go, you know what? We're here, and the first thing you need to learn is honesty. To come to a group takes humility, but then we teach people to be honest, because you've been lying to yourself probably, and you've probably been lying to those people closest to you. So we start by helping people check in. What are your feelings? See, so many guys in porn addiction, others are emotional midgets. They couldn't tell you a feeling if it smacked them up on the side of the head. And we give them this feeling chart, and they got to pick two feelings. In fact, married guys say their wives really like this, because some of the guys for the first time are actually starting to say, I feel this. And they go, you what? You've been married 10 years and you haven't. It's always, I think this, I think that. So we talk about where you at emotionally. Then we talk about where you at with your active commitments, physically, spiritually, relationally, passion. Then we talk about, okay, where you at in terms of the goals you set for your sobriety? Was this a week that you felt like you were able to fulfill your goals? We call it red, orange, or green. Red is, I've completely violated the things I set for myself. Green is, man, I'm all systems go. And then T is threats. What's coming up this week? Your wife's going away for a few days, or you're going on a business trip, and so we start with that. And then what we do is we begin with we have a 52-week video course that guys go through, 5 to 7 guys. And that's kind of a big step for guys too, because they come to me, Jeremy, and they go, okay, Vern, this has been a problem. So okay, how long can we get this fixed? In 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months? And I go, okay, first of all, how long have you been working on this embedded use?
That's so funny. I say those same things. Well, it's hilarious that you said that.
You've been doing this for 5, 10 years. How long? And you probably started this at 10, 11, 12, 13, right? How long have you been working on it? And it takes a year to begin to figure out technology, begin to figure out your unmet needs, the lies you tell to yourself, then how you're processing unmet needs. How are you reaching and medicating these areas in unhealthy ways? And how can you begin to do those in healthy ways? So if I was going to give one picture of where we start, though, I had a guy say to me yesterday, okay, Vern, here's my life, bum, 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 bum. I'm going, yeah, it's a mess. Where do I start? He said. What I said was this. I said, let's say your car has got all sorts of problems in terms of the engine. It's missing, I don't know much about engines, but there's an engine problem with your car. And you bring it in to the mechanic, and the very first thing your mechanic says is, Vern, turn the car off. And that's really an important thing, because I can't look at your engine while it's still turned on, right? And what we do is we help guys get their engine turned off, and that just means getting out of the lather, rinse, repeat every day, every 2 days, reaching for porn. How do they begin to change their environment? Because impulses and habits get them every time. So, okay, to use willpower is not enough, Benjamin Hardy, and they do this with professional athletes. Let's outsource your willpower to a successful environment, a safe environment. And so you say, well, I should be able just to stand up again. No. Willpower is not enough. We're asking you to use your willpower, but to use your willpower to set up the right environment that's conducive to your goals. Where it's the same with top athletes. Yeah. So it's one thing to say, well, I really should work out. It's like, forget that. I don't want to work out today. Forget that. I tell you what, you're going to meet me every Tuesday and Thursday at, 2:30. We're going to meet at the gym, and I'll be your willpower. We'll do it together. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I can do that. So you see the difference?
Yeah.
And some of the guys, it's technology that is just such a, so we do practical things. We use screen time with Apple iPhones to set limits around, I want my, I was up at 3:00 in the morning on Instagram again. Well, that sucks. How do you feel this morning? I'm tired. Well, go on to screen time and turn off your internet after 10:00 at night.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll just turn it back on. Well, then give your buddy the password. Like, where there's a will, there's a way. You go, well, I should be able to just do it. Yeah. And you're going, well, how's that working for you?
Well, it's you know what, it's, when we look at it too, it's accountability, right?
Yeah.
You're looking, someone's keeping you accountable, and that's exactly in the industry that, for me too, it's, like the example you used about having your own home gym. It's like you could have all the equipment in the world, but still people will still come see a trainer. They'll still go to a class because it keeps them accountable.
Yeah.
Something that also stood out to me was in regards to your approach to communicating the length of time that it takes to achieve something, because I started laughing because I literally say the same thing to someone. They'll say, well, I want this done in a month. I'm like, well, okay, well,
with or without steroids.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, like, even with that, it's like, damn.
I saw Jack Reacher and I want to look like that guy. How quick can I look like Alan Richardson, whatever his name is?
Oh, that's hilarious. It's funny because it's exactly like I always say too, if somebody, and again, I'm not too much on weight when we look at someone's weight, because you can be healthy at different weights, whatever.
Sure.
Anyways, let's say somebody has 50 pounds to lose, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, well, how long have you been, quote unquote, with those 50 pounds off?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're like, well, 10 years, I'm like, okay, well, we can get the ball rolling, but it doesn't mean those 50 pounds can just be off in a month, 2 months, because most of the times the people, and this is probably what you see, is the quicker that someone tries to erase it or try to get through it, the faster, and if not, sometimes the more aggressive it comes back.
Yes.
Because they go from 0 to 100 instead of going from like 0 to like 11 to like 13. And sometimes it goes back to 9 and then it goes to 15. So it's just like, I try to communicate that as well. So,
because what you're talking about is, how do I backfill? It's kind of like a dike. We had our problems with the flooding here, right? And hopefully they've been backfilling the dikes with more soil the next time we have an atmospheric river. But I say to guys, the reason it's a year at least is because now you're backfilling. You're not just removing old habits, but you're now backfilling new habits that are replacing them. There's a guy, Craig Parra, he makes this statement. To break a habit, I'm curious what you think of this. To break a habit, he used to say you need to make a habit, but then he switched it. He says to break a habit, you need to make the right habit to fill the right need.
Interesting. I've never heard that actually. So from my understanding, it's kind of, I'll try to use example as someone who's maybe sedentary. Mm-hmm. It's, I look at, we can look at, I'll use sedentary with like a prescription medication or,
sure.
I've had some individuals, and my view on prescriptions and things like that has changed, but I always look at something as, doesn't mean, if somebody is, let's say, depressed, anxious, whatever the case may be, and you give them a low dose of an anti-anxiety or antidepressant, it helps them get off the couch. Mm-hmm. It helps them to take action. It helps them. Yep. Doesn't mean they need to take that forever, that medication. But if it gets the ball rolling for them to go from not on the couch, not doing anything, watching TV, driving to work,
sure.
in a car, not having any sort of activity, to go out for a 10-minute walk.
Yep.
Well, that's now replacing your walk is now going to maybe able to replace the medication because of the benefits of the walking, but now you're also exercising as well. So it's like you have that mental clarity from the walk where that medication you might not need, but you're also getting that exercise as well. So,
and then you can begin to move into habit stacking,
yes.
atomic habits,
Yeah.
right? From that area. And I think you start, what you're looking for, I'm sure as a coach, is you're looking for small wins.
Always.
You're looking for somebody who says, it used to be every day or every 2 or 3 days I was back in the porn cycle. Now it's every week or 2 weeks. You're going, dude, that's great. Yeah. You are learning, your brain is resetting. You're starting to develop new habits, and you want to remove this completely. Let's start with where you're at and let's move forward. One of the things that sometimes guys go, okay, so you're at a point, like for me, it's been probably 15 years now where this has not been, a tipping point. It's been a tipping point for me in my life. But guys say, okay, so what does life look like for you now? And guys kind of get wigged out when I say this, or they just go, really, Vern? For example, my wife teaches elementary school. She goes every day to elementary school. And I work at home. I do podcasting. I coach guys from home. Other than 2 days I go in and teach high school. Oh, cool. When I'm home, the last thing we do the night before is we gather up like all seven remote controls for the smart TV, the PS4, all of my internet devices, and I throw them in a box, and I spin a dial, and I call that my pre-commitment. That is my pre-commitment for tomorrow.
Interesting.
So someone go, dude, what is your problem? Just don't go on the smart TV.
It's not that easy.
Yeah. Well, you're going, yeah, but when I get bored or when I go, so what I do is we do that. It's a pre-commit. But the next day, guess how often I think of going on the smart TV? And 0. Yeah. Because I've already used my willpower to make a pre-commitment to create the environment conducive for my success. And other guys go, and you get to sometimes in religious communities, well, dude, that's just, that's no self-control. Whatever. I don't have, there's certain areas where I just go, no, that's my susceptibility. I've learned to know, I know myself, and this is what I do to be successful in my life. It is a little weird sometimes when my youngest 30-year-old son came back and go, Dad, what's this with all the remotes in the box?
You're like,
that was it. Actually, that wasn't as bad because I just explained it. He says, yeah, Dad, whatever. But when my wife's sister came over, my wife just said, it's a long story.
No explanation. It's a long story.
No explanation.
That's hilarious.
So
no, that's cool because, and it always comes back, in my opinion, to what works best for you because the person beside you going through the same or similar, not the same because it might not be the same, but similar process as you might not have the same way of learning or thinking or adapting. And my view on it when I talking to someone, and you said it there perfectly about the small wins, is because if you are always constantly looking at your end goal, so like, again, most people come to me, they're like, I want to lose a certain amount of weight. I'm like, okay. Yep. Like in my mind, I'm like, sure, like not sure, like brush it off, but I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good goal. But like, I actually really know what you want. You want to feel better. You want to have more energy.
Yes.
You want to feel more confident. You want to be able to play with your kids. You want to be able to be, have a healthier, just lifestyle. Yep. Right. And I always try to remind them that it's like, they're like, well, I didn't lose X amount of weight. I'm like, well, how do your clothes feel? They're like, oh, they're like, oh yeah, actually, like I put on these pants and they feel looser. And I'm like, that's an amazing win.
Exactly.
Like, or like you said, like even it comes to maybe going for a walk. It's like, they're like, well, I didn't get my 30-minute walk this week 4 times a week. But I'm like, yeah, but you weren't getting any walks in before at all. Like you were getting 0 minutes. Now you're at least getting 10 minutes. Yep. Like that's better than nothing. So, it's an interesting way of, it's hard for someone to grasp that until they're in it and they actually like really understand it. So,
well, and I think what we also need to throw in is sometimes there's a urgency. If you've had a heart attack, if you've had
sure.
Like using the physical example, if you've been diagnosed with type B or type A diabetes because of your weight, or all of a sudden you go, something along those lines. It adds an urgency, which sometimes can work in your favor as a coach.
You can, yeah.
Right? Because you're going, I cannot, somebody that's had, has the beginnings of emphysema because of smoking, for example, you're going, oh, okay. In my area, when guys, spend their first night back with their parents in their basement suite because their wives have kicked them out because their son discovered porn on the computer, or some version of, or a guy was chatting with a woman online and gets discovered by his wife and there's trust broken. All of a sudden, the urgency is ramped up to a 9 or a 10. Yeah. I mean, that's not even getting into some of the crazier stories, when other things start happening. But we'll just go with the ones within the realm of, or guys lose their jobs because the guy's going, you know what? You're working on your computer, but you're stealing from me 2-3 hours looking at porn and on social media, and I'm not going to pay for that anymore. Right? It shows up on the company. Does that ever happen? Absolutely. Yeah. Right? In teachers. I'm a teacher. I use school computers. I have no teachers who've lost their job because of the stuff they're looking at. So those are sometimes when guys call me, and come on, we know guys, there's something about us that goes, I'm not often ready to make a change until the pain is so strong that I have no other choice. It's a pain to change, Jeremy. It's a pain to change our easy habits. Yeah. But oftentimes pain is a great motivator. And I hate to say the stories, but sometimes guys come to me and go, okay, I will do whatever it takes to save my marriage. Yeah, it's kind of that, like you said, that last resort. And and it's sometimes it's, in my view, it's like maybe not always the optimal way of always going about it. But if that gets them kick-started, then I look at it as at least you started. At least you started. Here's another example of guys in their 20s. I have guys in my 20s who come to me going, I'm in my late 20s and I now have erectile dysfunction. I cannot get it up outside of porn. Wow. Yeah. And they're in their 20s. You're going, and I'm afraid. And the guy's going, now I'm scared. Some guys go, what? Yeah, it's a thing. For sure. Yeah, no, and I've heard of that too. And it's like I said at the beginning, I think it's becoming a lot more aware. Yep. Reddit's helped. Yeah, right. Reddit, NoFap, all of that, right? Yeah. I'm actually kind of intrigued though, because I know we talked a lot about males, but do you have any females that ever reach out to you? You know what? It's actually apparently, I just read a study recently, I think it's under 35. I forget what the dividing line. Older women, it's not nearly as common. But 2 out of 5 women, I forget the dividing, it was 35 and under, are viewing porn. And I know a gal that works with women who are struggling as well. I don't work, our groups are guys in particular, but I have a great resource for gals that go, and that's kind of a weird one because not weird for women struggling, I get it, or women looking at porn, but there seems to be culturally a bigger shame factor. Oh, interesting. I mean, we haven't even got into shame and isolation. And guys, if you have any connection with a faith background or religious background, or even guys that don't, shame is often what drives the addictive cycle. But for women that are struggling, it's shame often intensified. So they stay secret even longer. Why do you think there's more males or females that tend to navigate with this addiction more? Why do men struggle more than women? Yeah. Do you think with it? I just think that just the way we're wired. Okay. I think we're just way more. I mean, we can get into evolutionary theory or visual. We were talking about being a visual learner person. Yeah. I think we're often just stimulated visually. like I was referencing Black Mirror, I think we're heading into an age where we're going to far more problematic behavior in real healthy relationships because, the porn industry, again, don't hear me, I'm not a big anti-whatever crusader, but they're incredibly unique in finding new ways to ramp up dopamine, to ramp up between the new they're always at the forefront of technological advances.
Do you think males are easier influenced then by it? Is that another kind of way of maybe looking at it?
I don't know. I think society, I don't know. I just think guys are more, again, girl, but most, the common pattern is women know there's something in their relationship. We're talking for a married couple now, I've heard over and over from women talk to me, you know what? My husband, because of porn, when his discontentment with me goes way up. He's unhappy with the way I look. He's unhappy with the way I make love. I'm on this treadmill with him. I don't like what it's doing to our relationship. Those are the ones that get a hold of me and going, that's not even getting into whether it violates somebody's faith boundaries or, teachings on, if you look at a woman lustfully, that's just women's experience who go, I'm losing my husband to this.
Interesting.
Whether or not they're starting to engage with real women or not.
Yeah. I always get intrigued by, especially I've never, in all honesty, really talked to someone who specializes or that helps other individuals deal with this. So I'm always curious to kind of see and hear the other side of it, because I only really kind of have I don't know if my own opinion is the right word, but my take on it just from what I see through people similar to my age, people that are older. And I think it's a very interesting topic, because like I said, the transition of it and the way it's going and the way it's moving is very, it's a shift that I've never seen before personally. But my take on it, and I'm curious to hear too, with your experience with working with individuals, do you find that having your teaching background and being able to teach people for so many years has really impacted the way you were able to help people in this sort of atmosphere, or this?
Apparently, one of the things that I am able to do, which is, I guess it's a gift. I can take a large body of information and synthesize it down very easily into quick, teachable things. I did that with the marriage course, the John Gottman. We did 6 nights. I read probably 40 books on marriage and came up with a 6-night thing. My brain just works. I take all these concepts and I'm able to put them, which is what I did with the 52-week video course. I probably read 50 books on all sorts of sexual addictions, from therapists to Patrick Carnes to you name it. By the way, there's a great book out there. If someone wants to read a book, it's called Unwanted by the name's God, Unwanted. And he goes deeply into the lack of purpose as one of the things that is so identified with guys struggling. His job was, he worked with the state of Washington. He did courses for people who had been arrested picking up prostitutes. And that was where he learned a lot about in that area. Unwanted is the name, and it's a fascinating book. And Jay Stringer, there it is, Jay Stringer. If you're going to read one book, read Jay Stringer's book, Unwanted. Cool. But as a teacher, and that's just something that I've loved to do. Get it on the bottom shelf. I'm not a big into therapy speak. Things don't need to be complicated. How can we help you? Let's popularize it, simplify it. what is an incredibly difficult, broad area, and let's put, the cookies on the bottom shelf to help guys. That's kind of, I guess, my jam, what I like to do. But for me, that's just an area that comes naturally to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So. I always like to hear kind of how someone learns, because when you say your brain just, does things, and then I kind of get questions like that too sometimes, of how do I word things, or how do I come up with an idea, and it's like I don't even know. It just
exactly.
Like it just happens. Like I think just some people are wired differently like that. This goes off of the groups and the people that you help, but I would love to hear, obviously names don't need to be mentioned, but it'd be cool to hear a story or a success story of someone you've been able to really help that really stands out. I can think of some clients too that I've worked with in the years, but I can imagine you probably have some too. So
I'll give you just a quick story of one of the very first guys I work with. He's probably in his early 30s now. He, like a lot of guys, developed, an embedded porn use dependency in his high school years, moved into college, ended up failing his failing university because of, just excessive porn watching when he should have been in class or up all nights. Left, basically did that. Ended up going back, getting a ticket to do something different. Met a gal, got married. She was not cool. She had herself experienced, which is a topic we haven't even touched on. When a woman has experienced betrayal, a woman has experienced hurt, abuse, the level of intolerance gets jacked up. I don't want a man that I can't trust, who lies to me, who says one thing, I have no whatever for that. So he got married. His wife discovered all of his online behaviors. She flipped out. She basically said, she'd heard about me. She said, you need to get a hold of Vern. And he said, yeah, I'm good. I've got this. He said, no, you need to get a hold of Vern. Otherwise, I'm leaving on Friday. This was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Friday came along, and she says, I even wrote the email for you. And Friday came along. Did you get a hold of Vern? No. She starts packing her clothes. He says, where's the computer? Heads to the computer, hits send. And now you say, well, he just did it for her. But within 3 months of working with him, he realized, there's funny stories of how it affected his work and how it affected, but it won't even, it's his to share. But, some of the crazy stories of people using porn in different settings. But he reached out to me, and in short, probably within 2 or 3 months, his motivations had changed, where he now, and that's a big thing, he was doing it for him. He was doing it because the man he wanted to be. He wasn't doing it, sure, she wanted it as well, but his motives and motivations switched, where he now recognized, this is what I want from my life. And now I've been with him he's in one of my alumni groups. Those are guys that have gone through the course, and I've got 3 different alumni groups where guys come to that have all been through the course. And it's a great story of somebody that is, and now he's got a daughter, he's got a marriage, his job is, he's in a great place. Still struggles with, okay, I'm feeling wobbly. That's a fancy word we use. I'm feeling wobbly. Reaches out to guys in the group, and we say, hey, we support him. You never, one of our favorite little sayings is, no matter how far down the road, Jeremy, you get, the ditch is still on the same distance from the vehicle.
Yeah, it's well, no, it's super true, because it's anything that you've struggled with and that you start to try to reverse. Will always take effort. I went through myself a little bit of food anxiety, as you could say, or maybe we could say a little bit of, food. I don't know if food disorder, but is the right word in this case. But you know, I've clients that even come to me and they're like, well, when does it go away? I'm like it doesn't. You just become better at managing it. You understand yourself better.
Absolutely.
It's just not as loud because you have ways of understanding yourself and being able to work with yourself. So it's something that I always try to, you know, communicate with people. It doesn't really ever like, not just like one day, it's like a snap of a finger, it's like poof, it's gone. But I do believe that it can be something that you can slowly work towards and get better at.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I encourage, if at all it interests you, I'm encouraging, check out the podcast Finding Traction. The byline is Recovery from Porn. It's Finding Traction. It's a picture of a big spiked wheel in terms of like an ice wheel, you know, and there's like 170 episodes there. So, you know, if you want to hear all of the journey, join us on that. It would be great to have guys do that.
Yeah, and that's actually a good place to, you know, kind of do an outro in the way of, you know, I always like to at the end, you know, if there's anything that the guest wants to either share about, you know, any wisdom if they want, but also to where they can find them, where there's some resources, and like an email or something if anybody wants to reach out. So
it's the podcast is called Finding Traction. You can also find me on YouTube just under my name, Vern Tomke. Okay. You can also watch the very first lesson. It's called Houston, We Have a Problem. And that's just a quick way to connect with me. If you want to email me, my email is bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Vern, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for listening to episode 39 of the North Star podcast. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been great.